Good afternoon. Welcome into Third and Teal. We got this guy with us today, Mr. Curtis Brown, CEO, entrepreneur, likes
Business
men
mogul.
sometimes. It has, business mogul, the Shad Khan of CPN, if you will. The owner of the network, the man himself, Curtis Brown, aka at Curtis PD Network, on X, Twitter, whatever your mom calls it. That's what we'll call it. I'm Isaiah. This is Third and Teal. We got Trevor with us as always. Eric not on this week. He's traveling. Safe travels to him. He found a couple Jags fans. We'll get y'all some videos here soon of that. Since you're the guest on here today, you go first, Curtis. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. It's been a long time since we've gotten to talk a little bit about the Jaguars, but especially from a Texans perspective. But I'm excited to be here, and you guys really have some solid fucking content coming out. So excited to get that cross promotion going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trevor, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. It's a pleasant surprise, and it's a great day when we get to talk to another team, another team's fan, and especially Curtis. The guy knows football. It's different talking with a fan of another team than it is talking with someone who knows football who happens to be a fan of another team. Those are two completely different things. It was a very pleasant surprise to find out he was coming on today, so I'm very excited.
Yes, sir. I feel you. It's nice to have you on, Curtis. Feels like it's been forever since we've been together on something like this. Of course, it hasn't been that long. I mean, it's been, on a recorded episode that wasn't the draft and all that. It's been a while. We haven't been, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's been nice. So, what's new in Texan land over there? What y'all got going on?
Not a whole lot, honestly. It's just full on preparing for the season. I'm hyped for training camp. I wish I could go, but I'm going to probably end up getting to go to the Titans training camp because I live here in Nashville. So that's pretty much it, honestly. The Texans have just been honestly trying to figure out depth all offseason, and you can tell that in a lot of the different moves that they've made. But, we're trying to take several steps forward in a division where everybody else is taking steps forward. So I the season is going to be a lot of fun. I can see it already. It's going to be a lot of tension.
Did your mic come unplugged, Curtis?
Yeah, your mic got kind of quiet there.
It kind of sounded like your mic unplugged and you were going off the computer itself.
Oh,
there you go.
I don't know what happened, but
magical.
I'm excited for this season. I think the AFC South as a whole has gotten better, and I think these games are going to be a lot of fun to watch. So, it's pretty much all I got as far as updates for the Texans.
Well, I want to ask something then. So I haven't, obviously, I'm not paying too close of attention to your depth so far. I pay attention to the big names. I pay attention to the guys that are going to change the game overall because you're in my division. Of course, I'm going to watch that. Right. But from an outside looking in, at least I will say, I haven't seen personally. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen. So I guess that would be the center of the question. How is it going getting depth? It seems like you guys have added a lot of first stringers. You've added a lot of guys that are clearly going to start in your rotation. But at that point, that would signal to me that there were questions about the existing personnel there to begin with. And that's obvious. I mean, we've seen them. We've seen them twice last year. Y'all saw us twice last year. We're doing the same thing. The Jaguars are loading up. In depth. I mean, we see that. We're loading up in cornerback. And it's been news headline there because of how many were doing it. We just signed another receiver that we'll talk about later. Our receiver room is loaded where it was depleted last year. Our corner room is now loaded where it was depleted. And same with safeties and linebackers now and D line. We're getting depth at every significant position for the first time in a long time. But it just seems like, not to hate on them, it just really seems like you guys have made a lot of movements for your first stringers, but it almost, from an outside looking in, would seem like once those guys have to come out on rotation, it'll be a completely different team and vibe on the field.
Well, from an outsider's perspective, I can see where you're thinking that. But in my opinion, the two biggest areas that Houston needed to improve on, not just this first string, but the depth for defensive line, defensive end, defensive tackle. Between those two position groups, I think there are 17 players currently on the line.
Your mic again.
Damn.
We heard everything. Okay, there you're good now. That was weird. I don't know what's going on, but like
I don't know either. There's some
It's
sort
like you're
of
talking like right here, and then it goes.
yeah. Like, we heard it though. But
okay. Yeah, 17 players in those two groups. We drafted a couple of them. There, we signed a bunch of guys who are kind of in the later stages, but are going to be solid rotational pieces. Mario Edwards Jr., Khalil Davis, we brought back. Tim Settle. The corner and safety rooms are still kind of big issues for me. I don't think Jeff Okuda is really going to – I think there's actually a pretty outside shot that he doesn't even make the roster. I think Kamari Laster in camp has been just showing the hell out to such a degree that it's going to be almost impossible for him not to be on the field week one, unless, barring injury or whatever. But – they drafted Kalen Bullock out of USC to, kind of shore up a little depth in the safety room. It's still not the greatest safety room in the league or anything. Jalen Peete needs to take some steps forward, and Jimmy Ward's only getting older. But we got a guy who can come in and fill in and be serviceable and not just be a special teams guy that we're asking to go take some valuable reps. Right. The only area I could see that we didn't address enough of was be linebacker, because I just don't think we got enough. I mean, it's Henry To'o is going to be a starter more than likely, and
interesting.
The guys behind him are not as good. What's up?
I said interesting.
Yeah. To'o is an athlete. He'll be all over the field, and he played well when he played last season, but it was sparingly. Azeez Al-Shaair, I mean, he's going to be the obvious starter. And then we got Christian Harris, who just awoken. Like, there was a giant awakening for him last season. And he's the reason that Derrick Henry holds the distinction of the first player in NFL history to have 20 touches and 4 yards.
You shut it down?
Yeah. No, it was but yeah, or 10 yards. I think he had 9 running and 1 through the air. Whatever. There's some depth guys. Solomon Byrd, he's going to be a good edge rusher, depth piece. Danico Autry's got the versatility of being inside or outside. Same thing with Mario Edwards Jr. They're both bigger guys, but they're small enough to where you could flick them on the outside and not have to worry too much. And then, of course, we brought in y'all's guy, Foloronzo Fatukasi. He'll probably just be, our A-gap guy. And if that's all he is, I'm cool with that, because I just need him to eat blocks like a motherfucker. Beyond that, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a team in the league that's got a wide receiver core quite as deep and as young as ours. Stephon Diggs is the only one that's really like old. I don't think Robert Woods will end up making the roster.
I doubt it, especially after y'all just paid Nico Collins all that money too.
Yeah, Nico and Stephon. We got Tank coming back healthy after being shot after the draft. John Mechie. We're expecting a lot of things out of John Mechie, and it'll be officially 2 years removed from cancer, and that's going to be something good for him to see in the rear view, and he'll finally be able to kind of build on something, because again, at the end of last season, he was getting relied on more because Dell was out and Nico was missing some games, and he came in and played pretty well for a guy who was like wide receiver 5 last season.
Right.
We got tight end depth for days. We brought in a guy that already has reputation with CJ, and it's really now we're trying to figure out who's going to be running back 3. We still got your boy Dare Agumbawale. / field goal kicker.
Yeah, he
I
did it.
mean,
He did it. Crazy.
yeah, he did, and he kicked the shit out of the ball. Never was going to guess that was going to happen, but
No,
soccer history. So, yeah, I mean, we've added some depth at some pretty important spots, and I think we'll see it all. I think we'll see pretty much most of these guys on the field at some point this season. There's definitely some issues though with the secondary.
it sounds to me like, and I could be wrong because, like I said, I'm not watching in close detail to what they're doing depth wise. I do watch the big name movements and stuff, and obviously we'll talk about those too. But like, as far as like movements wise, like to make changes, like the Nico Autry and Fadakasi and stuff like that, those seem like a Jaguars move of old of moving laterally. Like you didn't improve much, but you didn't decline much. You just kind of got a gap filler, And I know you're very busy and you have to look through a lot of all the episodes, but I don't know if you've gotten to watch any of the ones where me and Isaiah specifically have debated this, where good enough doesn't cut it. Like you need guys that are going to go in there and make a difference, not just hold a spot per se. Fadakasi is absolutely a guy that will not make a difference 99% of the time. He's probably just going to hold a spot. And Danico Autry, it really depends on the day. I mean, there's some days he shows up and shows out, and then obviously there's some days he didn't. But it just sounded like a lateral movement. Now, my big thing I would say, though, do you still see Stephon Diggs as a one? Like a true one, unchallenged, unrivaled one? And I only ask that because even last year he was very unproductive in comparison to who the Stephon Diggs of reputation is. Still a 1,000-yard receiver, still good, still solid receiver. But do you think he's still an unrivaled one? Because in my opinion, I think Tank Dell surpasses him in explosiveness and big playability on your offense in specific.
Well, there's two questions there. I'm gonna get to the first one, and then I'll get back to the Stephon Diggs thing. The lateral move thing is what I was going to address real quick. Can you name the starting 2 defensive tackles last season for the Texans?
No.
Y'all had what, Rankins and whenever he was playing, and then
right.
Oh shit, what was the other guy? Hold on. I know this. I don't know this.
Okay. So we had Rankins, who missed like 6 games, and then we had Malik Collins.
I did know that.
Yeah.
But I will say, to be fair though, the only reason I know Fadakasi is because he came from us.
Right.
You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. He hasn't made any significant impact anywhere to where someone is going to know his name. And I would almost argue as much as to say the same thing about Danico Autry. He's made more of a name for himself than Fadakasi. But the main reason anyone in the AFC South knows about him and it even looks at this move twice is because he came from the Titans as well. So
and the Colts, yeah.
All right, and the Colts, right? But see, that would be my point exactly. Is like no one knew who was playing there last year, and if it wasn't for the fact that they came from rivals, no one would know who was playing there this year. It was more or less my point there.
I agree.
And I think you're also exactly right about your DB room. Looking at your DB room, Derek Stingley Jr. is your only for sure piece that you know what you have.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you have in Derek Stingley. Everybody else is kind of a question mark and yet to be seen.
Yeah.
And your safeties, I couldn't even tell you who's there 90% of the time. And I will say, like, as far as the receiver room thing you said, I kind of feel like we have very similar receiver rooms in my opinion. Gabe Davis would be the comparison to Stephon. Stephon's more of an explosive player throughout history and reputation than Gabe Davis, obviously. But I think at this point in his career, they're very comparable. Very comparable, especially in production and what they're doing, because last year Stephon Diggs did not help out Josh Allen really that much at all. I mean, we saw Calvin Ridley go over 1,000 yards for us, but he actually harmed us more than he helped us.
Right.
And I think that's what Stephon Diggs was doing last year. Just if you're a numbers person, you think, oh, he had an on-track year for another number 1 receiver, but like if you look at the gameplay, it tells a different story.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think Gabe Davis is comparable there. I think we've got our Tank Dell and Brian Thomas Jr. now. That guy is stupid fast, like stupid fast, and his movement is literally insane. That's what makes Tank Dell as good as he is his movement and speed. And I think we've got that in Tank Dell now. Christian Kirk, I feel like he's a better in slot than Nico Collins is. Like when Nico drops into the slot or in that secondary receiver position, I feel like Christian Kirk is definitely a more solid option there, but still very comparable. So that being said, and then we brought in 2 more young guys, Joshua Cephas. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is an absolute stud. He was a UDFA, but dude, I'm telling you that the only reason that guy was a UDFA and not a first rounder, he suffered from the school he went to in college.
Yeah.
Like that guy is an absolute stud. And then not only that, we have Parker Washington. Like we've got a lot of young guys. So then that would of course bring me back to the question. Now that you like, we think our stuff is. In my opinion, I would think our receiver room is actually very comparable. Do you still see Diggs as an unrivaled one?
Well, in terms of like just raw potential, I think Diggs is a one. But in the Texans team, I think they won 2. I think Nico Collins is wide receiver 1. And I talked about this on my channel. I think that there's actually a world where by the end of the season, Stephon Diggs is receiver 3 if Collins and Tank Dell are healthy. I don't think this is going to be one of those 100 catches for 1,200 yards kind of years for him. If he can just draw some attention away from Nico Collins and Tank Dell, I think he's done his job. And I think that's right. Is more so to just take off those 2 guys. Let Dalton.
Hey, move your mic cord again. I can still hear you, but it's doing it again. And then every time you touch it, it stops doing it.
Did I do it again?
Yep, you're good.
You just gotta give it a little every once in a while,
Yeah. No, I mean, you're just hoping that you can take some pressure off the main guys, and then Dalton Schultz can cook over the middle, and you got Joe Mixon coming out in the flat.
Are you one of the delusionals that think Dalton Schultz is a better tight end than Evan Ingram?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That puts into.
I think Dalton Schultz is a better tight end than Evan Ingram.
You're delusional.
No, I'm not delusional. I just understand that the tight end position, like if you're talking about like the tight end position as the position that it's been since the beginning of football, Dalton Schultz is closer to Evan Ingram as a pass catcher than Evan Ingram is to Schultz as a blocker. And I
see where you're going there, but
I would say overall tight end
run blocker, the position of hold,
That's why I'm just going to say like tight end overall. But when we talk about like explosive, like receiving threat, it's Ingram all day long. But I will give Schultz, he does have a big edge in the blocking game. Yeah. But we don't ask Ingram to do that, of course.
Right. But I think it comes down to scheme, like we've talked about a million times on our show. Like the Jaguars have a history where I'm glad we're changing it of like ruining a player's career by stuffing them into a scheme that doesn't fit them.
Yeah.
And then they go somewhere else and they're a fucking star. I mean, it's because we ruined them with the scheme. Evan Ingram, we're not doing that with Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, in my opinion, he was first last year overall in tight ends to like almost all the way around. I mean, that being said, I think Kelsey and the likes of Kelsey, people like or tight ends like Kelsey, changed the position of tight end. It is no longer that tight end of old where you're a blocker and then occasionally you chip off and release. That's really, I don't think that is the tight end position anymore. Dalton Schultz is that type of tight end, but that's why I think, especially for our 2 teams, like our 2 teams are schemed very similarly too, which is what makes it such a good game. In our scheme specifically, I feel like Evan Ingram definitely has the edge all day. He's just explosive.
Yeah, he is.
Either way, I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a world where Stephon Diggs is the wide receiver 3 over in Houston, and I also think when that happens, he's going to cause a lot of shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping it's towards the end of the season that kind of becomes a thing, because I don't want to deal with that all year. But it is important to remember that I think Nico Collins and Tank Dell collectively played 5 games together.
Correct.
So another reason that Diggs was brought in is to kind of, if one of them were to go down, still have a reliable hand right there. And for that, I think it's well worth the money that Diggs is getting. Because several points last season, it was like, really? We got Mechie out here right now? Homeboy can barely run. Like, what are we doing? But with this, I feel like, hopefully there's a better shot of having 2 of them out on the field at least. And that's infinitely better.
Agreed.
Infinitely better.
Because we saw what happened when CJ was limited to one weapon only.
Yeah.
It did not go well.
No.
And I will say too, though, I find that funny. Like, and this is obviously a topic we're going to have to discuss. You being a Texans fan, the CJ and Trevor debate thing. I think that's another thing that really plays into it is we're just now getting a dynamic receiver room. We've never had that. We've had one attention grabber and we had a guy going over the slot, but the attention grabber was constantly dropping shit.
Yeah.
So Trevor's playing in a similar situation to what CJ played in when he only had one weapon. Trevor only had one weapon, and I think those are the types of games where you really compare them, I think. And I think that's where the comparison shines through. Because in my opinion, and this is not even just because I'm a Jaguars fan, I do think overall as a quarterback, Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback. I think CJ Stroud is a better athlete, while Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback. Then those two are very distinct. I think Trevor Lawrence is a great athlete, but CJ Stroud is faster.
You did not just say that.
No, he is. He is a better athlete.
CJ Stroud is not faster than Trevor Lawrence.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not. CJ Stroud is an athlete. CJ Stroud is not more athletic than Trevor Lawrence.
Either way, I'll say this: Trevor Lawrence has ball placement that I know CJ doesn't have. Now CJ has good ball placement, but we've seen like most of the big plays of CJ Stroud's career was when Tank Dell blew a fucking safety out of the water. You know what I mean? Or something like that, like the bigger bomb plays. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he didn't have good plays where that wasn't the case. He had plenty of great plays, but most of the bomb plays were when he blew a safety out of the water. Most of Trevor's bomb plays comes off of literally putting a ball where only the receiver can get it, like literally right there on a dime. So that's where I would have to ask you, because you're obviously not completely delusional about CJ Stroud, because you will say he's not a generational talent like every other Texans fan ever will jump the gun to say. Agreed, he's very good, and admittedly, they are comparable. But to me, I still feel like overall Trevor is the better quarterback. Not just in this. I'm not even take the fact that I love this team out of it. Just watching the play for play. Like when Trevor has one weapon, that's all he's ever had, and if sometimes even less than that, Yeah. And he still has done the exact same season that CJ pulled off last year. But for the times that CJ didn't have only one weapon, that's when he really shined. Is when he had multiple weapons. Because as we were talking about earlier, he's limited to one weapon. It does not go very well. I feel like Trevor definitely adjusted to that well, but it's not that CJ can. I know he can. So then that would all this is a preface and a lead up to where do you see the two next to each other, and who do you think takes the edge in the position as a whole?
I'm going to give that answer on like a scale. Okay. So obviously Trevor's been in the league a couple more years. So correct. I would think that there would be some sort of gap that CJ Stroud is trying to make ground on.
Right.
But I would say that CJ Stroud's rookie season was better than Lawrence's rookie season. So he might be a step ahead of where Lawrence was at the same point in their careers.
Agreed.
But at this moment, I mean, I have a lot of questions about CJ Stroud in terms of like, can he replicate it? Is with the off season of everybody watching his film and dissecting everything, can he replicate and improve? Can he grow from here? I think he can. It remains to be seen whether or not he will. But the generational tag is something, in my opinion, that has to be earned.
Correct.
It's not something you just slap on a player. So, like, I do think it's fair that a lot of rookies and a lot of prospective quarterbacks get slapped with the generational tag before they've ever touched the field. A lot of the guys that we would consider generational did not play generational ball until later in their careers. Drew Brees, Peyton Manning took a couple of years. Aaron Rodgers didn't even see the field for 3 seasons.
Correct.
So, I mean, it takes time to develop all of that and just digest everything what you're being thrown at. I mean, gun to my head, who would I rather pick as far as like, leading my team into a crucial game? I would probably go Trevor Lawrence for now. But, with maybe another season of what CJ Stroud can do or whatever, whatever, if he can build upon, maybe that answer changes.
Right.
But it's complicated for me because I feel like it wasn't just one thing when CJ Stroud played bad. Like in all of the games where CJ Stroud has a poor performance.
Yeah, because there are
The
multiple
blocking is
things that
awful.
he was bad.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just on him. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
I think Trevor has that same thing, like where the games where everybody's like, "Oh, Trevor Lawrence is terrible." Well, did you see Walker Little get folded like a lawn chair, or did
Yeah.
you see Brandon Scherf literally fall over before the ball even moved? Like, are you watching this? Are you watching Cam Robinson literally steal money from us because he's sorry as fuck? Like, did you see this? Are you watching this, or are you watching Calvin Ridley just clap his hands as it goes through his arms? Like, are you watching these things? And I completely agree. I think that's obvious a case with Stroud as well. But one thing I would have to say though, and that's where my comparison really takes the edge for Trevor. It starts at the line. You have Laramie Tunsil. I mean, you have an All-Pro right there. That guy is a stud. We don't have a single guy that can play at that caliber. Period. Well, I mean, I think now we do. Like Ezra Cleveland and them are capable of it, but they've yet to do it.
Yeah.
But Laramie Tunsil's proven. Okay, he's proven. I would have to say that the Texans line is far more sturdy than ours was, at least for the last couple of seasons. Our line has been literally wet paper. It's been very bad.
On paper, I'll give you that. But what we fielded, like to start the season and then to end the season, with the exception of Laramie Tunsil and Shaq Mason, who Shaq Mason played every game, is the only Texans offensive lineman to do that last season. Laramie Tunsil missed 2 games. Everybody else was in a constant state of like, all right, who are we playing here right now?
Yep.
George Fant was playing better than Titus Howard was at right tackle a season ago. So they just let him play there. And then they were like, Titus, you're going to hop in at left guard. And then Titus blew up and just was terrible the entire time he was in after missing most of the season. And then got hurt and ended up missing like the last 8 games.
Right.
That alone, like the offensive line alone, has been an Achilles heel of this team for a while. There were a big reason to why I thought Davis Mills struggled as much as he did.
I completely agree on that. Absolutely.
Because they did not help him at all.
Like at all. His life.
Every play.
Right.
And then Nico Collins wasn't even like figuring it out yet.
Right.
And it was Brandon Cooks and Davis Mills trying to make everything happen.
Right.
But we didn't have a running game to speak of. Like it was Devin Singletary, and that didn't happen until late. That's a portion of the offensive line to blame, and that's a portion of Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary prior to that.
Right. So that's why I congratulate ETN as much too. I just want to say it while I'm thinking about it, is like you just made a perfect point there. ETN is very underrated in my opinion because he's still done the things that he's done with an offensive line at least that's equally as bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, what you just described is exactly how, in my opinion, we're ruining Walker Little's career in Jacksonville. Because Walker Little is a very solid player, but we're ruining him because we keep moving him every which way because someone goes down every other day.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you'd explain. Basically, like, I think it's wild that, like, don't get me wrong, we are rival teams, and at the end of the day, I want us to curb stomp the shit out of the Texans, and the same for you wanting them to do it to us. Yeah. But what makes it hard, like even in the Battlegrounds group that you found me in to ask me about this show, those people are so out of touch with reality, and so is most of the majority of fans in football now. They're just out of touch with reality. They're like, first of all, they believe that the Jaguars have made no strides forward this season. If you were to say that and confidently believe that, you should probably stop watching football. It's not for you.
Yeah,
it's not your sport. It's not your sport. And the same would go for any Jaguars fan that would have to say that about the Texans. If you think that, you're not watching, and you should probably just give it up. It's not your thing. And at the end of the day, I think we faced very similar struggles. The only thing I will say that was very, very blatantly different is the rookie year between Lawrence and Stroud. Not performance wise, but I would say organization wise. Like we had a coach that was partying and not even flying back with the team. You guys have the perfect fit for you as a coach. I think we've got that now. If Doug can get his balls out of somebody's purse and take back control, but Doug is the perfect fit for Trevor, I think. But Isaiah's already shaking his head about the.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing.
yeah, he's already going in because he loves Press Taylor. He says he doesn't, but he's got to love Press Taylor.
He's a Press Taylor apologist.
I am a watching footballist.
Agreed. He makes very solid points about that, and I've given that to him. We had a whole episode debate about Press Taylor. Okay, but either way, I do think the potential Doug Peterson has there is very high. But at the end of the day, D'Amico Ryans was perfect for this organization. And I think that paired with CJ Stroud being a rookie and the fact that no one knows how D'Amico Ryans was going to coach an entire team. That was yet to be seen altogether. And then his ambition and just new things in Houston, that's what elevated Stroud, in my opinion, to the heights that he made it to. I feel like if Trevor would have been with Doug year one, we would have seen a completely different rookie year. I think year one with Doug showed that immediately, that a competent coach went a long way for Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely, dude. I mean,
Urban
Meyer was a train wreck.
Oh, he was a joke. Absolute joke. Complete joke. But all these things, this is all just a culmination of it's hard to speak to another fan of another team that's not delusional. Like, I think the only ones that are delusional are the ones that think that Calvin Ridley is going to be what turns the tide for the Titans offense. If you think that, you're delusional. Yeah. You're absolutely delusional. And I would say, even though I hate the Texans and it would be fucking perfect for us that he turned out this way, I would hope for you guys at least that Stephon Diggs does not turn out to be the Calvin Ridley experience all over again, because that's what it seems like so far. He's coming in. He's a good route runner. He's proven that he's good at what he does. Calvin Ridley, when he got here, good route runner. We already know he's good at what he does. And then he comes in, he grabs the attention, but then he shits the bed the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's what Stephon Diggs, for the most part, did last year. He shit the bed a lot. He still made it over 1,000 yards, but so did Ridley. But everybody knows Ridley was shitting the bed in Jacksonville. I mean, I think we did a tally one time. It was like over 15 touchdowns that he just.
No, it wasn't that many. It was.
No, I'm talking about over the whole offense, but Ridley had at least 8 by himself.
I think Ridley had 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah, Ridley had 8 by himself. We had so many, but like I only bring the whole offense's total count up because Ridley's supposed to be the attention grabber, right? But he caused everyone else to be off their game because, he's grabbing the attention. So when the ball comes to them, it's like they don't even know what the fuck to do with it. It fucked the whole flow up. It fucked everything.
I can tell you one thing he wasn't grabbing, and that's the football.
Yeah, he wasn't fucking doing that. He damn sure wasn't doing that. I mean, dude was getting.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot. There's a lot of Titans fans I talk to who are, we got the best wide receiver core in the league. There's no one even can touch our top 4. I'm like, bro, Father Time already touched your top 3. Like,
literally, bro, it's over.
Like, I think in December, all 3 of their top wide receivers are going to be 30 plus.
Who's their third receiver?
Tyler Boyd.
Oh, I forgot they got him.
Yeah, and then you got
Traylon Ridley all that money. AJ Brown.
Do what?
Crazy how they paid Ridley all that money but refused to pay AJ Brown.
There's a different group of people entirely.
I know it is, but I just think that it's funny that Titans fans are so quick to forget about that type of shit that they were pulling.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's a different organization, but they don't let us go when we made our fuck ups 10 years ago when none of the people that are here were there.
Yeah, I know. The Titans got to hold on to something because it's definitely not a playoff win.
No,
but look, the the division's going to be crazy this year. I think there is a world where the Titans could fuck around and win 8 games.
There is a world.
I think there's a world where the Colts are a bigger problem than we're thinking. I think there's a world where all of the AFC South teams are right around 8 to 10 games, 8 to 10 wins.
Oh, it's going to come down to the last 2-3 games of the season again, like it did last year, for who's getting the wild card and who's winning the division. Like, it's absolutely going to be that way, I believe.
Yeah,
I think because I don't expect Anthony Richardson to be why the Colts are a problem. It's going to be Joe Flacco because he's already getting hurt again in training camp again.
Yeah.
Like he's already re-injuring that shoulder again. I mean,
What is he throwing?
That guy's made of glass.
Like, what is he doing?
I don't know, dude.
They need to stop feeding this man glass, I guess.
Dude is literally like softer than baby shit. Like it's so bad. It's so bad. And
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I also want your take on a couple other things, so I don't want to get too off track. First things first, I saw I can't remember the page. I'll have to look it up, and I'm sorry for all the people watching that I'm not educated on the page. I forgot it. But there was a ranking that came out that put the Jaguars defensive line at like 29th or 30th overall. That is absolutely absurd.
That is absurd.
Insanity. No, like, how in the hell? I saw it as I was scrolling earlier through Instagram. I know they've made plenty of rankings that have been discussed throughout multiple media pages, but it is absolutely insane. They had the Texans, though. Their defensive line was like top 15. I'm like, wait a minute now. Will Anderson Jr., absolute stud. So is Daniil Hunter. Daniil Hunter, absolute beast. But we've got them plus Eric Armstead.
Yeah.
And we just signed 2 mountains of men from LSU.
Yeah.
Those dudes are monsters. Like,
PFF had us as 26th.
Or was it 26th? I'm sorry.
Yeah, PFF had us 26th.
That's insanity. That is absolute insanity.
I agree. I was saying it when the draft was happening that the Jags were killing the defensive line. Their defensive line is significantly better than 26th. I think it's going to be a challenge to ball against y'all because it took me a minute to remember his name, but Hamilton.
Devon Hamilton.
I talked about him on one of my last podcasts because I was about who's the most realistic threat to the AFC South crown this season, and it's the Jaguars because of the defensive line.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the depth there.
Oh, yeah.
Because those guys, they're all mammoths. And you got nothing but them. You're 12 deep with mammoths. There's a problem. That's a problem for anybody trying to run the ball or throw the ball. The Jaguars are going to be a problem. 26th?
Yeah, that's what PFF.
Somebody needs to get their card pulled, bro.
Yeah, literally, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is those type of people that should stop watching football because it's not your thing.
No,
it's funny too though because we got like a top 10 defensive tackle in Eric Armstead from last season. We had the top duo in sacks last year. But PFF, of course, is going based off of last year's ratings that they had, and then also we do have a decent bit of like new young people who have never played before on the D line. And Devon Hamilton, also, you got to remember, if it's PFF, they're going to go based off of their grades from last year. Devon Hamilton graded out at like a 20 or 30 something.
Yeah, when he was sick.
Yeah. Correct. No, but I get that. But they're not going to go back 2 seasons and say, oh, because we haven't seen Devon Hamilton back. So I will say in PFF's defense, they're going based off of their grades, and we all know how PFF grades can be. But not in their defense. Fuck you. Okay, we're a top 10, if not top 5 defensive line now. I think that Houston also has a top 10, borderline top 5, like we are borderline top 5 defensive line now with the additions they made in the offseason. I don't think that you guys have quite as much size in the depth category as we do, and potential explosive depth, just because, of course, we got the 2 rookies that are potentially going to be explosive depth pieces. We got Miles Cole we added, but I definitely think that like the Jacksonville Jaguars, like it's not just going to be the Titans and the Colts anymore. Like, the Titans and the Colts have had good defensive lines for a while. The Texans and the Jags are going to be a problem in that category too, and we might be the best division in the country, like in the NFL, in terms of defensive line this season. But yeah, I think that 26th is a joke.
I think it's also crazy. They rated quarterback strength out of all the divisions. AFC South placed 7th. That's insanity. And not only did we place 7th,
we do have Will Levis and Anthony Richardson in the conference.
Yeah, but we also have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the game playing at the moment too. Like, I'm not saying they're the best. I've already done my top 10 with that before, but they're not the best. But they are 2 of the best. Like, they're both easily top 15.
So I'm assuming that the AFC West was number 1.
Yeah. I mean, that's Yeah, we already know why.
Herbert and Mahomes and
Yep.
But I feel like Mahomes and Herbert really kind of elevate them because what is it?
that's
Minshew is the starter, and
Minshew and Zach Wilson or the rookie, whoever wins that job. But I mean, but Mahomes alone makes them the number one, and then and then you got probably the AFC East. Not the
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers and them was second.
Yeah,
and then you probably have without looking at it, probably the AFC North next with Lamar, Burrow, Pickett, Russell Wilson, and then after that, I would assume would be
Deshaun.
Yeah, who would be? I guess are they putting the NFC? Are they putting the NFC West or the NFC South as the number 8?
Honestly, but at that point, to be completely honest, it really does. I stopped reading because when they if you can put the AFC West as number 1 because of 2 quarterbacks, how are we 7th?
I mean, we are talking. I mean, in the AFC West defense, they do have back-to-back Super Bowl champion, 3 Super Bowls or 4 or whatever he has.
I get it. I get it, but like if you're
and then Herbert and you're making Herbert gets his hand held, and Herbert gets the excuse of the team around him with a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
It pisses me off so bad.
With a Hall of Fame wide receiver, the team around him just poor baby
and
Herbert.
One of the best running backs in the game at the time.
Best dual threat running back in the game besides McCaffrey.
Literally.
Whatever.
You see, that's another thing that's crazy too that I hate about the Lawrence slander is like before it was C.J. Stroud, it was Justin Herbert. It was comparisons to Justin Herbert when neither one of those quarterbacks at the time were even in similar positions to Trevor Lawrence, like because they were comparing rookie years, and I mean we already talked about C.J. Stroud's rookie year. The Chargers were a much better team and much better coached team, even though Staley's an idiot. Much better coached team than Urban Meyer's led Jaguars were. So, I mean, it all accumulates to the generational tag is nothing but a setback. It is the worst thing you could receive as a player.
Well, I think it's only bad when you haven't earned it. If you're just throwing the tag on somebody, you're doing them more harm than you are good, and you're just kind of hoping and wishing upon that person.
Well, I think what gets lost in that too, though, is that Trevor Lawrence was dubbed as a generational prospect.
Yeah.
But then, of course, as soon as he came into the league, instead of being like, okay, he was a generational prospect, let's see what he does, everybody's like, oh, he's a generational quarterback, this, that, and the other. It's like, no. He was a generational prospect, like Andrew Luck was, like Peyton Manning was, like Eli even was, like he was a great prospect because he had all the intangibles. He's 6'6". He can throw it a country mile. He can run fast. He had everything you're looking for in a quarterback. But like then everybody just immediately was like, oh, he's a generational, like they call him a generational quarterback. Like, no, we called him a generational prospect. There's a difference.
Yeah. But that also, like you said, very like lost like that in translation.
Yeah, because you have all these guys that come in here in the league. You have guys that weren't expected to do anything. You have guys that get passed up on by 31 teams in Lamar Jackson because he's a wide receiver, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, dual threat. Yep. And you got guys like Patrick Mahomes that people traded up 12 spots to draft Mitch Trubisky, and because he's and then Mahomes comes out and he's the best quarterback maybe ever at this point. Like we're getting to a point where like he's just easing on that territory where a couple more years and he's going to be, he's already in the GOAT conversation as like a future prospected thing, but like we've only got 3 or 4 more seasons before they're already saying like he's the GOAT or he is like one more Super Bowl from beating Tom Brady or whatever it is, Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers is still in the league. People are still talking about how great he is because they remember what he was, not what he is now. Like people are giving him all this credit. We haven't seen him in a Jets uniform. We've seen the pictures. They look nice. But we saw him for 3 seconds whenever he tore his Achilles last year. Yeah. Like it's one of those things where like, people just can't let go what is said about somebody and what they used to do and what they're considered at a different level. And, we talked about it last week about Acho saying like he's getting paid for what he did in college. Yeah, quarterbacks get drafted for what they did in college, but he's getting paid for what he's doing and what he can do in the NFL. And there's no doubt about that. There's not, if you're doing a redraft, Mahomes is off the board. Lamar's off the board. Josh Allen's off the board. I'm only putting Josh Allen there just because he gets way more credit than he should. Who are you taking next? Trevor Lawrence is right there with those guys. You're not taking Rodgers. You're building a franchise. You don't want a guy who's going to retire in a year and maybe he does and maybe doesn't have it. I just think the generational prospect label is ridiculous because then it carries over. Like you guys said, it's more of a detriment than a help because then it carries over and like nothing you do is ever good enough until you have that Mahomes-esque season, and nobody does because Mahomes is different. Mahomes had a team built around him. It's a whole different situation.
Now, CJ Stroud had his own slightly different variation of the generational prospect tag because it was placed on by me. I'll fully admit to this. In my opinion, he had to become the best Ohio State to NFL quarterback.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And he did.
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you have to do? Beat Dwayne Haskins?
Who told you that he would?
He's already the best Ohio State quarterback from the NFL.
This guy.
The bar is extremely low.
Yeah, but I also said he was going to be the best quarterback in the class and that he was going to be a great quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, you did. And
yeah.
I every time you say that, I always back you up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't. But
I mean, he's still starting. He automatically wins, first of all.
True. But
Ohio State had a terrible track record of creating first-round pick backups.
Yeah, Justin Fields.
Literally. He's literally a better wide receiver than a quarterback.
In one of the competitor shows, I'm not even going to throw names out there, homeboy, one of the hosts of these shows told me that Justin Fields was in the MVP race last season, before the season started. And I was like, I don't know what you're smoking, but I don't want any of that.
Yeah, keep that to yourself. Yeah.
It sounds like it's killing your brain.
Sounds like brain rot. Yeah, literally. Yeah. That's awesome.
Literally.
I mean, even the Madden trailer, he's returning kicks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Look, I feel like there's a guy that comes into my restaurant all the time, and we talk football basically every time he comes in. One of the things that he will say almost ad nauseum is that he doesn't believe the NFL is good per se at developing quarterbacks. It's 100% about where you land more than it is, we're going to develop this guy, make him into, the GOAT, whatever. It is 100% where you land because some teams, they don't care what you can do or what you're best at. They're going to ask you they're going to ask you to do different shit.
Yep.
And if it's not your strength, you're going to get booted out of town. Ask Zach Wilson.
Literally.
And then you get, some people are fortunate enough to land in a place where they can sit for 16 games or 15 games, come in week 17 and light it up as the starters just taking a breather and then go on to have an illustrious career like Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
But he was drafted to a place with an offensive guru who's developed tons of quarterbacks and been a part of a lot of different offensive schemes and knows how to build everything to fit what any quarterback can do.
Yep.
CJ Stroud, I think, got sent to a situation that flatters him. They didn't ask him to do a lot of what he couldn't do well. Trevor Lawrence, his first year, Urban Meyer couldn't tell his ass from a hole in the ground, so Trevor Lawrence was just kind of winging it, it felt like.
Oh, absolutely winging it.
So, for that reason, I think that there's actually some gravity to the thought that Will Levis is going to take some steps forward this year because of the coaches that are finally brought in. This is going to be the first time in Titans history where their weapons are not in the backfield.
Yeah.
That's not happened before.
No.
When it was just D-Hop and Calvin Ridley. That's the best 1-2 punch the Titans have ever fielded. When they added Tyler Boyd, that made them the best trio receivers that the Titans have ever had. It's not even close. Brian Callahan and his dad, Bill Callahan, are going to make this offense hum.
Yep.
they're going to be a different beast this season.
Correct.
I think that they're going to take several steps forward, and they play a last place schedule.
Yeah, Will Levis is going to go from 35th to 32nd. Woo!
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Big
possible.
step.
It's possible, but I think he's. I'm not necessarily saying he's just going to show up next year and be Peyton Manning, but I think there's a world where he is somewhere in our conversation in the next offseason where it's like, all right, how the hell are we still ranked 7th when Will Levis just threw for 4,000 yards for the first time in Titans history since like 1991?
Literally.
Yeah. Nah, there's so much. There's so much.
I think that this is it's just a good point to say that everybody that's a fan of any team in the AFC South needs to really get real and just take a good look around that every one of our teams are competitors.
Yeah.
Like the days of there's a guaranteed just getting a blowout win against one of our division rivals is over.
Yeah. Unless injuries, but yeah.
Right. Barring
Unless
injuries.
the Colts in Jacksonville.
Yeah, the Colts in Jacksonville are always going to get owned. But other than that, the days of that, those automatic, you're going to beat Jacksonville or you're going to beat Houston or Tennessee or Indy is gone.
Yeah.
Those days are over. I think, like you said, man, it's a culmination that, Will Levis is primed to take a few steps forward. But at that same time, so is Trevor Lawrence, and so is C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson might actually take a step on the field. I
wouldn't get ahead of yourself.
No, I'm not trying to get too far ahead now. I can't be saying stuff that's not going to happen, but whatever.
Can we make a side bet about who's going to be the backup quarterback after Anthony Richardson gets hurt?
Oh, it's going to be Joe Flacco.
No, he'll be the starter.
The backup.
Yeah, the new backup. I mean, he's got to be older than Joe Flacco, right?
I don't even know who's still older than Joe Flacco that's even eligible to play anymore.
Oh man, I bet they could call Tim Couch up.
Yeah, he'd hop in. I will say this though, I love that all the teams are competitive, but man, it's like you said, it really does depend on where you land, and the fact that no one else seems to really put 2 and 2 together and realize that makes other fans delusional. Like I can remember when I was like 5 and 6 years old. Most people talking about other teams, they may have fucking hated them, but they were usually realistic about the game. Like, This guy is good, this guy is bad, this guy's going to give us a problem, da-da-da-da. And that's what makes the game fun, is acknowledging, understanding, and just talking football, being real about football. But the idea that, like, Jaguars fans that think Trevor Lawrence is going to guaranteed kick the shit out of C.J. Stroud every time, they're delusional. The same thing about C.J. Stroud kicking the shit out of Trevor Lawrence every time. Delusional. I mean, and these people, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. Especially with, and that'll segue me into another question I definitely have to ask you before you get off here. That segues into, how do you feel about Lawrence's contract?
I think it's deserved. I think it was. I mean, it was going to happen regardless. I feel like whether or not they got it done this offseason or next offseason, the money was just going to go up if they waited. By the time he's getting the big bucks, he's going to probably be like top 10 paid quarterbacks, just because that's just the way this shit works.
Mahomes, example one.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have a problem with it in the world. I think that he's shown improvement. I think that he's shown the potential to be able to do great things. I mean, look at the playoff win a couple of years ago against the Chargers. He dug himself into a hole, but he also dug it out. Like, he got himself out and got the dub.
With a team that caused no turnovers, by the way. We forced no turnovers that game. It was all him. He literally.
Exactly. That second half, Trevor Lawrence was on fire, and there wasn't much that was going to be able to stop him. So I think he deserves
shit up.
Yeah, I think he deserves it, and I think he's got his best football ahead of him. It's just keeping him upright and keeping him healthy, and if the Jags can do that, then I think that every game you're going to see, like, all right, that's why they paid him. All right, that's why they paid him. Okay, that was a good throw. That's
why
that's
they
why
paid.
they gave him the money. Yeah.
Yep.
And it'll stack up, and then by the end of the season, all of this noise about did he deserve it? Blah blah blah. It'll all be quiet. They'll all shut up and be like, "That was a valid contract."
Hell, that'll all go away as soon as Dak gets paid.
True.
Because Dak's going to get paid, and he's going to probably be the first player to bust 60 a year, most likely. I mean, so that being said, once Dak gets paid, all that'll be quiet anyway. But
yeah, because Dak
fuck them because they're fake anyway. But regardless, that being said, who do you see poses a bigger threat, like the biggest threat in the AFC South to taking the title this year from the Texans?
He said it earlier. He said Jacksonville.
I did say the Jags. I did say the Jags earlier.
My bad. I thought you were just saying like we had a good chance at taking the crown because of our D-line. I'm sorry.
Well, no, the D-line definitely helps, but I mean, honestly, as we've been talking about it, the AFC South is just generally better this at least on paper this offseason. We still don't know what we're going to get out of Anthony Richardson, and for that, I kind of put a knock on that one. And we don't know what we're going to get out of Will Levis. So again, that's another knock. Still question marks. So realistically, the only feasible threat is Jacksonville, who, had they won week 7 or week 18 last year,
we had the crown. Yeah.
It would be all. I mean, and it didn't matter what the outcome of the Texans-Colt game was. It was,
and that's one thing that I find crazy. And you actually acknowledge this, and I want to give you props for it on the show in front of everyone else, because in a private conversation, he was also not delusional to the fact that even though Texans fans are big on we made it to the playoffs. Yeah, you did. But your one Gardner Minshew dump pass away from not.
Yeah.
One dump pass away from not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So to say that, we're just so much better we made the playoffs, not really, because it's the same thing like Titans fans were using against us the year before. We won the game. We won a very close game. It came down to the last play. I mean, at the end of the day, we've all been competitive for a few years now. And I will say, in my opinion, just because of what we've done depth-wise, I feel like we have the edge at the moment on paper. Now, we'll see how it translates on the field. But I think Texans and Jaguars head-to-head right now, we both got stud quarterbacks. Our running back has proven to be better behind a bad offensive line. He's a stud. He's certified. We know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Evan Ingram, a killer. We have very comparable wide receiver rooms now. We have stupid depth at cornerback now. And we've got 3 guys that we know are really good. We know Tyson Campbell is really good when he's not hurt. And from reports coming out on paper, he's not hurt right now. He's doing really well. We know Jerry Jones is a stud. I mean, Jerry Jones didn't allow a touchdown in college football for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's a stud. No matter what way you slice this up, that guy's a stud. And then Prince was super solid as well. He's not Jerry Jones level, but he's still really good. And then that being said, not to mention the veteran presences we've brought in.
Savage.
Yep, Darnell Savage and Flowers. Because Savage, we know, is now going to be moved to a nickel instead of a safety. He's not moving. We're not moving Antonio Johnson out of there, which is good. So that being said, Savage is going to be playing as a nickel. And our safety room got better. It's weaker than our cornerback room, in my opinion, but it's definitely gotten better. And Antonio Johnson is a proven stud. He just needs more time.
Yeah.
So all these things being said, it's hard for me to say that we don't have the edge on paper, because our defensive line, in my opinion, is top 5 in the league on paper. I find it hard to put them out of that. There's not very many defensive units on the line that are going to be better than them. I mean, and I'd be hard pressed to find one. Like, obviously, the Steelers have a good line. The Browns have a good line. The 49ers have a good line too, but part of that good line we now have. The main part.
They blew up their defensive line this year.
Yeah, their defensive line exploded, So that being said, I don't even know if you put them there anymore. That's debatable. Just see. I guess it really comes down to how it turns out on the field. But just for the sake of conversation, you still put them there. Who's next? Like, who do you put over Jacksonville's defensive line next? Because Trayvon Walker, in my opinion, is more consistent and is better than Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson gets a lot more attention, but Trayvon Walker is very good. If it wasn't for Josh Allen being a stud on our team, I feel like Trayvon Walker would not be regarded as a bust pick compared to Aiden Hutchinson. because a lot of people make that assertion, which is insane to me. But Trayvon Walker is very damn good. Josh Allen, we know he's good. We know Devon Hamilton is a monster when he's not literally battling a blood infection. And we know we're getting an Eric Armstead, So that being said, we then move on to our next weak spot is our offensive line, and the Ezra Cleveland, one of the most solid pickups in my opinion that we've done in recent history as far as the line. Very solid.
Yeah.
Scherf, dog shit. I fucking hate Scherf. He's a waste of money and he's an oxygen thief. And I'm starting to feel the same way about Cam Robinson because he literally just gets folded almost every time. But I will say he was hurt for a lot of it, so who knows what that is. But I will say he's definitely overpaid for his production. Anton Harrison, certified stud. Certified stud. Because he shut down Will Anderson Jr. completely almost the entire game, both games we played the Texans. And Will Anderson Jr. is your defensive rookie of the year for a reason. He's a stud. But that being said, whereas the Texans have one or two guys in each of these position groups that can make a difference, we now seem to have 4 or 5 of these types of guys. And that's why I think, in my opinion, and that's what I want your opinion on, is I feel like we now have the edge on paper. Now, everybody knows that paper to field is not always the same translation, but that's really all we have to go off of as of right now.
I mean, absolutely. In terms of name and star power, I would definitely put the Jags defensive line ahead of ours. I don't know where I'd put them in the top 10 or whatever, but I would definitely give them the nod for the defensive line, edge rusher, defensive tackles, all of that. Will Anderson, again, had a solid rookie season. Need to see more out of him. Daniil Hunter, we don't know how he's going to play with us. We know how he played in Minnesota. We don't know if he even likes being in Houston. We don't know. Sometimes we bring in dudes and they just don't perform.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Calvin Ridley.
Amon Green, for any of my old Texans fans out there.
Kevin Beacham.
There
for Jacksonville fans.
Yeah.
Yep.
See? On paper, solid move. Didn't work out. I do think the Texans defense is better than it was last year. Rankins and Malik Collins missed a fair amount of games. But at the end of the day, I think it's definitely the Jaguars that have that fucking entire position group locked down in the AFC South. Because, Devon Hamilton's a problem when he's healthy, and Eric Armstead's been a problem when he was healthy. He did only play in 12 regular season games last year. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. And I know that the Texans were trying to get him.
Oh, yeah.
Before the Jags had pulled the trigger on their deal. But
if you had gotten him, it would have been game over. You'd have the best D-line.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion. If you had gotten him because you solidify that center you solidify the center that you don't have really at the moment. And you would be in a similar position to what we're in right now. We've got 2 guys that are coming from LSU, very young, and we have a lot of their old coaching staff here, so that's going to help them a lot.
Yeah.
We know what they've done in college, but who knows what they'll be. Same thing what you've got in your centers over there, except for one piece we do have, but you also have in Danico Autry, we have Devon Hamilton. So I feel like the edge between which line would come out better really came down to who got Eric Armstead. And, of course, obviously, in the end, we got him. But I think that was really the piece that did it. Because otherwise, Daniil Hunter on the other side of Will Anderson Jr. is very comparable to Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the best way to ask this question would have been at the end of the day, if they added somebody to the room, would it feel unnecessary?
That's a good way to put it. In my opinion, for us, I can say I would have a hard time ever thinking in addition to the D-line would be unnecessary because these are big, heavy mammoths of men that have to use full strength every time the ball is snapped. Right. In my opinion, you cannot have enough good rotational pieces.
Well,
on the line. But if we were to say go try to chase another star name, yes, I would think that it is unnecessary.
Right. And after all of the free agency moves have been done, I was still thinking we could probably do more in the defensive line room. You know what I mean? There was just I hope that we drafted somebody a little sooner in the draft. What was the name of the
Jason Newton.
Mason Smith that you guys got.
Mason Smith, yeah.
Was he in the second or was he later than that?
He was in the second.
Yeah, Mason Smith was second, and then his teammate was next after him, wasn't it? And then then Jarian, and then Javon Foster. If I'm not mistaken. I think
it was Mason Smith, and then it was Jarian Jones, and then it was next was Jordan Jefferson in the fourth, and then Javon Foster was like 2 picks later in the fourth.
Prince came after him, right?
Yep, then Prince.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was hoping that we would have addressed that earlier in the draft. We brought in an Auburn defensive tackle, Marcus Harris. I think he could eventually kind of push to be in the starting lineup, but at the moment, I mean, it's just pure age in the middle. I mean, Fotokasi's got to be, 29, 30, and then Danico Audrey's 33, 34. So, I mean, I wanted more youth in the room. I wanted people who could learn underneath these guys or who could contribute and spell those guys immediately. Right. I didn't feel like we had that. So I am extremely comfortable in giving the Jags the nod in that position group.
Is there any position group that you feel the Texans blatantly take the nod on?
Blatantly take the nod on?
Yeah, like no
defense.
That's a good one. No, I think we're about pretty much even in most of the position groups. I mean, I guess technically you guys would have a more of a trustworthy backup quarterback, I guess. Who would you rather have, Davis Mills or Mac Jones?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, for sure. Yeah. Mainly because I feel like if anybody other than Bill Belichick, and don't get me wrong, it's not a dig at his greatness, but without Tom Brady, we saw what he became. Okay, so before anybody comes at me for that, let's just call a spade a spade. Yeah. I think if anybody other than Bill Belichick is the coach there and allows a new style come in, Mac Jones is still the starter and is actually excelling very well.
Yeah, very possible.
I think that's a very strong possibility because Mac Jones showed flashes in his first year that he does have potential to be a very good quarterback. He could be a very good quarterback. I just think he's one of those players like we talked about earlier. He's going to be scheme specific, very specific. Like, you got to play to his strengths. He cannot play to yours.
Yeah.
And that's not how, if you watch any of the interviews or documentaries that have been done on any Bill Belichick team ever, that is not how it's going to roll there. It's going to be what Bill Belichick plays like, his style, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's not Mac Jones. So I'm definitely taking Mac Jones because while I agree that Davis Mills is on a depleted Texans team, Mac Jones was on a very depleted Patriots team and still found success in his first year at least,
Yeah.
I mean, he was named a Pro Bowler. I mean, that doesn't say too much in these days as much as it did back in the day.
Yeah.
But he still was.
Tyler Huntley.
Literally the first name I was thinking of.
Literally, yeah. It doesn't speak as high as it used to, but he still he was still a Pro Bowl selection. I mean, on a very depleted team. So that, and if I'm not mistaken, he's got to be younger than Davis Mills. I think so.
I think Davis is 25 or 26.
Is he? Hang on. For some reason, I was thinking Davis was like 28. I don't know why.
No, he's not.
But either way,
Mills
like
25.
Huh?
Davis Mills is 25.
And then Mac Jones is actually probably older than him. He's probably 26, ain't he? 25, 26.
Mac Jones is also 25, September 5th, and Davis Mills is, hold on, drum roll. Not David White. Good Lord.
Oh my God. The drums are getting tired, big dog.
I only got so much.
Mac Jones is older than Davis Mills by a month and 16 days.
Okay, well, then take that point away, but I'd still say that I'm still going Mac Jones.
Yeah. But honestly, all the other groups, it's pretty. I mean, like, I think the Jaguars have the edge in the tight end group because I feel like they've got tight ends that could probably be tight end 1 or tight end 2 on most every team in the NFL.
Correct.
I like Brenton Strange a lot. Evan Ingram. Didn't you guys bring in another guy this season? Like, wasn't there a third tight end where
last season we did.
Okay.
But I don't think we brought in another one this season. But all three of our tight ends played very well when they got in the game.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Luke Farrell, underrated.
Luke Farrell is very underrated. And so I definitely agree with you there. We definitely have the edge in tight end. Because while Dalton Schultz is a better traditional tight end, we have better current tight ends, if that makes sense.
Isn't it like the Y is what
A Y tight end is what they
Yeah, the
consider
Y
a receiving tight end. Yeah.
that's what Evan Ingram is. And then you have Brenton Strange is more of your like traditional tight end. And then
he's actually he's very good off the edge block.
Yeah.
Brenton Strange is. He actually does very well off the edge block. So I feel like if Brenton Strange was anywhere else and with consistent playing time at a one spot, he is as good as Dalton Schultz, I think, if he's playing every day. Like if he's playing every game and he's getting the development as a one like Dalton Schultz does or like Evan Ingram does, he's very good at the edge block. He can seal the edge. I'm pretty confident that he could definitely at least be close to a Dalton Schultz level player.
Have you guys seen that like tight end career arc thing to where like when most tight ends start getting to their peak? It's like the latest of any position.
Yeah, they peak at like 27 or 28.
Yeah, that's when most of them start to play their best ball.
Right. Like Evan Ingram, he's coming out right now. Like
and what is he?
Couple years, he's literally emerging. Yeah.
He'll be 30 this season, I think.
30. Yeah. Which speaking of that,
or 31. He's right around there.
Speaking of that, I feel like we both got good future stuff. Our teams are going to be competitive for the future. You mentioned it before the show, so we just locked in, obviously, to Jacksonville for another 30 years. I think that's awesome. I feel like I don't know when, but I do know that it's not too far away, if I'm not mistaken, that Houston has to renegotiate. And I feel like there's definitely a lot of concern there, like how Kansas City is in the same problem of another Oilers situation where the city and the team just can't come to terms.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you, first of all, like, I don't know, have you seen any of the numbers for our stadium and our deal and what's going on here?
I heard it was like $1.4 billion to renovate y'all's stadium.
So it's 1.4 billion. I think like 500 or 600 million of that is for downtown and other stuff too. It's not just purely going into the stadium.
Yeah, Shad Khan himself personally has dumped $1.3 billion into the city of Jacksonville total.
I think the city is taking on I think it's between like 750 to 900 million of the renovation cost. But I think like 400, 500, 600 million somewhere in there is allocated to the city to do downtown reparation and stuff like that.
Correct.
Reverbation.
Are you able to pull up any pictures of it, Isaiah? Because I know he was asking about the renderings earlier.
Yeah, I can.
I'm currently trying to figure out who actually full-blown owns the Texans stadium, because I know the McNairs had more money than the Adams family did.
Correct.
And that was a big reason why they couldn't just full fund the new Oilers stadium.
Yep.
So I'm looking it up right now to figure out who exactly owns these. Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation.
Quick question too, though. Who do you think really overall should reserve the rights to the Oilers colors and uniforms?
Well, do you guys know the history of where the Oilers colors came from? Like the origins of the color?
I don't know all of the origins. I know there's a lot of high school and there was a high school and a college team there that also wears the same colors. I know that was the big lawsuit that Tennessee just lost.
Yeah. Ooh, that looks nice.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Wait till he gets on the inside renderings, dude. It's literally insanity.
Yeah. It does look like the city does have controlling interest in the stadium, but I think that the McNairs know how much that the Oilers meant to the area. So I doubt that they're going to try to leave. I would imagine that they're going to do everything in their power to make sure their team stays in Houston.
Isaiah, I think if you go to the Jaguars Instagram page, they just posted a new collage recently too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when they were announcing the new deal. And actually, it'll show some of the details of the deal, I think. I know they posted one. I don't know if it shows numbers specific, but it also shows our relocation schedule and for the next few seasons what we're going to be doing.
Nice. The Houston Oilers colors are the official colors of the city of Houston,
Correct.
as well as they are the official colors of the. Oh my God, that Jags '95 thing was sick as fuck.
Oh, dude, I can't wait for the fucking throwbacks. They keep fucking teasing us with them, but they're pissing me off, dude.
That is nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Um,
I hate how it does this shit. Fucking
yeah, but yeah, the Houston Police Department has had those colors since the '60s,
Correct.
before the Oilers existed, and the Adams family to this day will admit that that's where that came from.
Right.
So for those reasons, I think they belong. They should belong to the city of Houston. But I get the legalities and how they just moved. That's all that really happened. The Titans own that shit. I don't really have a personal attachment to the color. Again, I live in Nashville, so when the Titans moved here and were the Tennessee Oilers, I was about it. I had an Eddie George Tennessee Oilers jersey.
Right.
So I don't really give a shit.
So what made you switch to the Texans then?
I've always been an underdog guy, and in 2003, I went to a Titans-Texans game, and I had never heard of the Texans. This was their second year in the league. David Carr was just getting annihilated. I was in like fucking second or third grade, and just not really paying attention to much of the world around me at that point. And went home, found him on Madden, and fell in love. Never looked back. And
Fair enough.
yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I've still got the program floating around here somewhere from the game I went to.
So I need to wrap it up.
What, like a condom?
Yeah. If you boys want to keep going, though, I'll just hop out. But I also think this might be a good stopping point.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
We've covered plenty.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out Worm, by the way. Can't forget my shout out to Worm. Worm will be here. Worm will be watching. Wormy,
Worm, baby.
Anyways, yeah. So shout out Worm. Like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, you're probably not this far if you didn't. But if you are, awesome. I should have said that at the beginning of the show, but yeah, I was distracted. And thank you for coming. And any last words? Any last words?
I won't do it to him.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to do it to him because Eric's not here. I don't feel right doing it to him without Eric.
Yeah.
I will wait until he's on with Eric. But I will say, though, road to 100. Shout out to everyone that is still following and is subscribing more and more every time we post. I think we gain at least 1 or 2 subscribers every video, whether it be the shorts or the video. Just thank you guys for the support, man. Like I know we're what, 4 months into this now?
Yeah.
We're 4 months in now, and we're already almost to 100. I know that sounds like a small number, but in the grand scheme of things, man, that's big for a YouTube platform. That's really big. So thank you guys for the support, man, very much.
Yes, thank you guys, all of you, for your efforts here on the show and for the people watching and liking and subscribing. It is huge, and it makes me feel like my effort is not worth nothing. You know what I mean? So just keep hitting the like and subscribe button. We'll make it all happen.
Yes, sir. Also, joined a softball team at work. We're doing a softball team for like a little tournament, little tournament, because at the multi-million-dollar recreation facility they built us, and not for profit, whatever they say. Anyways, I've lost like 7 or 8 pounds since joining the team. Kind of got something to work towards now. Yeah. And I got home earlier and I was like, fuck, I gained like a little over a pound. I took a piss. I lost 1.2 pounds. I weighed twice to make sure, both times. So I weighed 2.
Are you a water buffalo? What are you doing?
I weighed 259, and then after I took a piss, I was at 257.8.
Shit.
And I was at like 257.6 this morning, so I'm pretty even right now. So I should be at like 255 in the morning. But yeah, so we're doing good.
Really rocking like a camel over here. You're just holding that much.
Yes, hey, honestly, I didn't even really have to go that bad. I just wanted to go just in case before the show. But I'm about to go do it again. So I'm gonna record that shit. I'm gonna like take a picture before and after and here in a minute when I do it, just like see what happens. Anyways, all right, boys, y'all have a good night. Go Jags. Curtis, the Brown.